Ross, pronouns they, them. And I'm here to make the announcement. Thank you for that wonderful Mary Oliver poem, which I just happened to read about 2 nights ago. It's like, that's a spectacular poem. And as somebody who just came off finishing the Spirit Rock Year to Live course, which if any of you want to contemplate death and therefore life, is a wonderful course to do, that poem has particular relevance and resonance. I want to just make 3 announcements, basically. First off, I want to welcome you all, particularly to this land, which was unceded land for many, many centuries, of many tribes of indigenous peoples. The 2 I wanted to mention this morning are the 7 tribes of the Grand Ronde and the 27 tribes of the Silet Grand Confederation of the Silets. And I mention those 2 because it's worth penetrating a little bit behind what the Confederation means. What it means is that those tribes were so thoroughly decimated in the 19th century, early to mid-19th century, that when the administration in Washington and the local communities started creating reservations, they collected the remnants for the Grand Ronde. They collected the remnants for the Silets. And so 34 tribes are consumed in 2 Grand Federations. And it's worth just thinking about what that word confederation means. It doesn't mean a bunch of people happily got together and said, great, let's confederate. It's because the remnants of what settler colonialism left behind were then gathered into reservations. And you can visit them, and should. And if you want to know more about that whole process in the United States, I have been reading a really wonderful book by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz called An Indigenous People's History of the United States. That will teach you American history from the indigenous perspective. It's not the history of the colonial settler powers, it's a history of colonial settlerism as experienced by indigenous peoples. So I recommend it to you. It'll tell you about the many trails of tears, the slogan of killing the Indian, saving the man, that have been part of American history. And I say that as a son of colonial settlers in the West. Second thing I wanted to say is to welcome everybody here in terms of diversity, age, culture, ability, gender, sexual orientation, class. All are welcome here. And here at PIMC we have a couple of exercises in particular, and I'll mention one in a moment, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. But there's a regular BIPOC group that meets, so if you belong to the BIPOC cohort, there is a way to do that. Look for the details on the website. And there's the Be Queer Now group, of which I am a part, that meets every first and fourth Sundays of the month from 6 to 8:30, and you can get the details on that and sign up if that is part of who you are on the website. And then there's the DEI committee that I mentioned and the programs that are underway there. There is on the 3rd of February, I believe is at 5:30 in the evening, there's a film that is about the journey of a particular monk called Wandering But Not Lost, that will be held here. Yes, popcorn will be provided. And we encourage you all on February 3rd at 5:30 to come and watch that film. There is, I mentioned the Be Queer Now committee, but I wanted to mention in particular and underline here the 4 classes on the will to change, looking at the patriarchy in America. And I really want to encourage people who aren't just part of the DEI committee to come participate as you can. Register, join us. We're going to do 4 class sessions. How many in this room have watched the film Barbie? I'll bet there's almost everybody, right? Yeah. Because made Greta Gerwig $1 billion or so. Almost everybody's watched it. The theme of the patriarchy flows through that movie. The language about the patriarchy flows through that movie. So you've been watching it. And it's a fabulous movie. Well, this course, this 4-session course, on Tuesdays at 6:30 or 7? 7 o'clock. You can do it online. It's an online class. And we'll be working from this, which is a book by Bell Hooks. How many in the room have heard of Bell Hooks? Good, fantastic. How many people in the room have read The Will to Change? Excellent. Come to the class. We need your expertise. We'll work from this text, but we'll look at it thematically. The place of men in the patriarchy, the place of women in the patriarchy, the culture of the patriarchy, and Buddhism and the patriarchy in 4 class sections. Bell Hooks was a writer, thinker, poet, occasional musician, and who wrote a number of books, probably about 20 or 30 books over her lifetime. She died in, I think, 2019. And one of them is this. There's one many of you have read. Who's read All About Love? Fantastic book. The Will to Change was written 4 years after All About Love. And she challenges in this feminist thinking, she challenges men, she challenges women to step up to the personal absorption of the patriarchy in our own lives and to the surrounded quality of the patriarchy, the water that we swim in all around us. And we'll be looking at those things. And I wanted to just close by reading 3. Yeah, just by reading 3 quick quotes to tell you a little bit about what the challenge is going to be. Everyone who tries to create love with an emotionally unaware partner suffers. Self-help books galore tell us that we cannot change anyone but ourselves. Of course, they never answer the question of what will motivate males in a patriarchal culture who have been taught that love emasculates them to change, to choose love when the choice means they must stand against patriarchy, against the tyranny of the familiar. And I'll give you an idea of what the class is going to look at. And the last note on that is that she was very influenced in her life by the work of Thich Nhat Hanh, with a very conscious absorption of Buddhist teaching. So I encourage you to come to that and welcome you here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
Something's happening here. There's a body sitting. And it somehow is accompanied by consciousness. So it's possible. How? Nobody knows. It's possible to direct awareness to a chosen location in the universe. Perhaps to what you would call your hands. Perhaps to what you would call your feet, or the feet, or the left foot. Or perhaps awareness could inhabit the face. There's no theory in this. There's no concept needed. It's just awareness and sensations of the right cheek. And of course, ever since that fateful moment when your mother could no longer breathe for you, you've been breathing by yourself. It's not an optional activity, it's actually utterly essential. And you might choose to use that as a life jacket. To be here now in the rising and falling of the chest and abdomen. It's not a picture of the abdomen. It's not an imagination of the abdomen. It's the actual sensations. It's not even abdomen. It's not even breathing. It's just this. And you may well discover that the mind loves to wander. It's very creative. It creates all kinds of fantasies of past and future. It creates our whole personal history. It creates our fears about the future. And so we have this real world, directly experienceable anchor. And each breath has a beginning. It is a rising to fullness, and a decline and a vanishing. What's really happening in your mind? Not what would you like to be happening. Are you struggling to make something happen? Is there some sense of failure? Some sense of success? Would it be a better meditation if you were in bliss? Which of the hindrances are present, if any? Desire, wanting, craving, disliking, desiring not, aversion, restlessness, agitation, worry, upsetness of some kind, sleepy or dull, sloth and torpor, doubting. Practice doesn't last long when we're doubting, or when doubting is arisen. Coming home with bare attention, which means uninterpreted awareness. The sensations of breathing in and breathing out. What if it's true that there's no place to get to? That we're here already. And that wonderful pithy teaching from Ajahn Chah, this moment is like this. The mind is like this at this moment. The body's like this. Not like this with a sentence after it, but like this with a direct knowing. Every breath appears mysteriously out of nowhere. At first we don't notice this mystery. It just seems, well, here's my breath. But attention and clarity of seeing gets finer and finer so that you actually notice when the breath begins. You actually can be present for the great journey upwards of the chest and abdomen and diaphragm. And the following journey of the same. And then it's gone. In science, we tend to take a small sample of something and then study it closely. We may study with an hypothesis. In the case of breathing, the hypothesis is, does any part of it last? Does it have substance? Does it have a self? Is it impermanent? Not a philosophical question, an experimental question. Is the beginning of the breath gone when it gets to the end? It can seem like a silly question, but what's the experience? And as we come to the end of this time of sitting together, please turn towards something very intangible. It's your sense, your scent, your sense of being a self. You'll never find it very clearly, but there's this sense of it. And is it not true that this sense of a self really longs to feel safe, to be loved and loving, to be cared for? Some of us have been deeply conditioned that it's really not okay to value our sense of self, our sense of preciousness. You may have spent a lifetime with varying degrees of self-dismissal and self-hatred. There's a saying that even eons of darkness are dispelled instantly with a candle flame. A lifetime of self-hatred is dispelled in a moment with wishing yourself well. Seeing the absurdity of not loving yourself. And maybe some simple phrase like, I love you, with your name at the end. And if such a phrase goes clank, that's very useful information. You are going to be gone before very long. Doesn't it make sense to wish yourself well? And you're sitting in a room full of people or here on a Zoom screen full of people. We know in our heart of hearts, everybody wants the same thing, don't they? Every person in this extended group would really like to feel safe and loved and loving, free, compassionate. It's a thing we all share. So let's imagine that in your heart of hearts, there's a golden Buddha or a Kuan Yin or some archetypal figure that can radiate, that naturally radiates love, filling your heart and your spleen and your liver and all the way down to your toes. Everywhere in the body where there is dis-ease, discomfort. In your whole neurotic identity. All the fears, all the loneliness, all the nastiness, the despair, the depression. Let this golden light or white light or however you want to visualize it touch all of you. And now let's extend it into the room. Those of you at home, extend it out into the rooms of your home, out into the world. It's such a relief to experience our love for all beings. It's not something we make up. And so now, please become aware of your body where it touches the chair, of your hands and fingers, of the sound of the air in the room, the heating, of the ambient sounds if you're at home. Become aware of the eyes in the head, in the face. And before opening your eyes, why not conjure up a thought of blessing? I won't ask you to say it out loud, but what might you wish for the person to your right or your left or on the bottom of the screen? If you were to conjure up some recognition of your interbeing with this person, if you really realize they really are your child or your parent or yourself. And now mindfully noticing the intention to open the eyes. And then let's take a moment to look around the room, see one another, wish one another well. Don't hesitate to stand up or turn around, or you could even be bold and offer a hand to somebody. You get it back. Hello, friends on Zoom. It's a lot of people, 63. A preface to my Dharma talk. I'm really swimming around deeply in the Book of Joy, and Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama and another fellow whose name I'm forgetting, gathered together and spent some time talking about life and joy and practical steps that one can take to actually be more joyful. Though I must say, I don't like the word joy. It's got a problem. I'll talk about that for me. But how to be happy, how to live in this world and actually have some happiness And as I've been thinking about this talk, I remember an old friend of mine, I'm sure none of you have ever heard of him, Eric Kolvig. Did you ever hear of Eric? He had a saying, he taught here a few times. He had a saying that really crystallized some things for me. He said, samsara, the wheel of birth and death, is broken and there's no fixing it. It's the Buddha saying life is dukkha. There's no fixing it. I've spent most of my life trying to fix it, fix something. So I'll come back to that in my talk. And I wanted to mention Kendall is teaching tonight at 6:30, every second Sunday night-ish, first and third. Nicely transmitted. Okay. Are we having coffee and tea today after so there's through that? Would you demonstrate the door for me, please? The door. Through that door at the end of our gathering are some very lovely people. So
I brought some homemade chocolate. I don't want to take any home.
Homemade chocolate. Okay, we're going to try something here on our little peephole screen. We're going to have Jim do a little movement practice. I need to make him big, though. Where is he? I can't even find him.
Go with one.
Here you are. Okay, Jim. I'm going to pin you. Are we okay with the system as it is, or should we?
Yeah, that'll be fine for this.
Okay.
And for everything.
Remove all spotlighted video. Continue. There's Jim. Now, how does his sound come in? Are we okay with that?
Jim, can you get Jim to speak?
How's my sound?
Okay, you need to get your audio from your laptop into the PA system.
I need to get my audio from the laptop into the BA system. I have no idea. Oh, yeah, I know how to do that, I think.
So you have the audio. It looks like the other cable's still there.
Yeah, so I go to what?
The cable?
No, I need just to unmute,
Oh,
I think. How's that? Jim?
I'm not muted.
he's not still on.
Is anything coming through?
Headphones. Here we go. Try that. Jim?
I can't. I don't know if I'm being heard.
Not working. I think. How about this, Jim?
Well, some people are
Loud
hearing.
and clear on Zoom.
I'm not getting your sound through. Oh, turn up volume. How about that?
I
Try
can
now.
hear Jim.
It's going through Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got it. Yay. for
All
us.
right. Here we go. We're standing and scanning this body standing here. Where's there joy in this body? Does it feel good to stand up? Does it feel good to take a big, deep breath? Then sink, and we'll start moving. It has a beginning and an ending.
So you can't get camera.
Can get camera, but no microphone.
Well, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
If somebody wants to speak, they'd have to sit in their chair.
Okay, let's do that. That's a good idea. Hey, Jim. Are you prepared to relinquish? Oh, hang on. Prepared to relinquish the screen? Jim?
Yeah. Do I have to do it?
No, I do it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just torturing you. There, we have this lovely picture of me with the halo. How about that? So are we going to do anything, or are we just going to leave it?
Do it from there.
I don't do anything.
You're good for now, I think.
Okay.
Is the audio still good?
Audio still good?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. I said this before already, but teaching the Dharma, I guess repetition better not be bad, because we say the same things again and again and again and again. I was sitting early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, a few days ago. And there were little waves of anxiety that came through. Little waves, maybe a kind of groundswell of anxiety, and then some little waves and particular things. And awareness grew of how unpleasant it was. Being anxious is really unpleasant. I know people who live with anxiety disorders, and I can hardly imagine how they manage to do it. Because when we dare to look at it, it's so painful. And then maybe the mind was slow enough, or awareness quick enough. It became really obvious that whenever there's anxiety, there's a self. And it's a self that's afraid of how things may turn out. It's a self that is, worried it's done something wrong, or may do something wrong, or the whole deck of cards is collapsing on us right now. I might mention, first weekend of May, Betsy Toll and I are going to do another workshop on speaking the unspeakable, and this time we may focus on climate change as the great beast we dare not even look at. So, the self is there's a problem. The experience of I, this rigid sense of I, for one particular reason, which is that it gets born, is quite separate, apparently, from others, or its experiences of separateness from others and the world, and then it dies. And most people don't even like to think about that. I mean, some of you may be cringing. It's like, oh God, it's the death topic again. Well, I did start with Mary Oliver and the bear. It was a warning. I want to know I made something particular of this life. So I'm swimming around in the Joy book, and I came across this. You won't be able to read it. That's my notes. I went to look for it in the book this morning. I couldn't find it. But there's brain circuit research by Richard Davidson. I looked him up, and he's very reputable. He has nice pictures, nice PR, professional PR pictures, and he's done lots of research on this. And in a certain, I don't know, I think, anyway, how I want to present it is, he has 4 strategies, in a way, that are represented in brain structures, in the firing of the brain. There are 4 capacities, in a way, or skills, that if you want to lead a happy life, here it is, emphasized by brain research. Wait till you hear his 4 categories. The first one is learn how to maintain positive emotional states. Tell me when you recognize it. The second one is learn how to recover from negative emotional states. And these are skills that have specific scatterings of neuronal. They're quite different shapes on the brain when I looked at it. The third one, this will knock your socks off. Develop the ability to focus the mind somewhere and don't let it wander completely wildly. Sounds a bit familiar, isn't it? And then the fourth is develop the ability to be in relationship and in love and in connection. That our happiness is intimately bound with whether we are part of Sangha or not. Well, hang on. Oh, there's the boys. Here it is, one of my diagrams from my Eightfold Path class. Oh, I need to show this to the crowd, don't I? Hang on. Where do I find it? Zoom is here. No? Yes. Share screen. Ta-da. Ta-da. The 6th factor of the Eightfold Path, skillful or wise effort. The effort to prevent negative states from arising, which is avoid the stimuli when you can. The effort to restrain and uproot unwholesome, unhelpful mental traits, mental activities. The capacity to cultivate wholesome states, mindfulness, curiosity, persistence, joy, tranquility, equanimity, concentration, the 7 enlightenment factors. I mean, these are very familiar, aren't they? This is the underpinning that I'm realizing in this book by Desmond Tutu, or about Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. And there's another quote I want to read. I think I had it up here. Can I find it? Where was it? Oh, dear. Oh, I know. I had it on here, I think. don't know. Oh God, that was the news. That was bad for a second. All right, well, it's worth finding this. Well, that's a beautiful website. Oh, look, it's Portland Insight Meditation Community. How do you like that? It's very beautifully done now. It's improving every day. Classes, here we are. All right. Oh, here's a class by Robert Beatty. The first class starts on Wednesday night. We were stormed out last Wednesday, so you can still start from the beginning if you want. There's a quote from the Book of Joy from the Dalai Lama. One of my practices comes from an ancient Indian healer. The Dalai Lama began answering the Archbishop's question. He taught that when you experience some tragic situation, think about it. If there's no way to overcome the tragedy, then there's no use worrying too much. That's a bit odd, isn't it?
Easier said than done.
Can you mute people? Oh, no, you can't.
I need to be co-host.
Oh, co-host. God, you're so demanding. Let me make you a co-host. Where are you?
PIMC Zoom broadcast.
Are you pictured?
It's you, but the more orange.
It's me? Oh, this. No, this. Which one? Oh, I got it. Okay, I got it. Make co-host. All right, you got it. One of my practices comes from an ancient Indian healer, teacher. He taught that when you experience some tragic situation, think about it. If there's no way to overcome the tragedy, then there's no use worrying about it much. So I practice that. No dark fate determines the future. We do. Each day and each moment we are able to create and recreate our lives and the very quality of human life on our planet. This is the power we wield. Lasting happiness cannot be found in the pursuit of any goal or achievement. It does not reside in fortune or fame. It resides only in the human mind and heart, and it is here that we hope you will find it. This is very pithy, isn't it? I mean, imagine a statement like this. Lasting happiness cannot be found in the pursuit of any goal or achievement. It does not reside in fortune or fame. It resides only in the human mind and heart, and it is here that we hope you will find it. One of the realities of the lives of these two men in this book is that the Dalai Lama does 5 hours of practice every morning before he goes about his daily tasks. He goes to bed at 7 o'clock and gets up at 4 or 3 or something. Desmond Tutu has a 4-hour prayer regimen before he begins each day. What's going on there? Those are people that have their priorities, particular priorities, really straight, don't they? So, incidentally, these are Ruth Dennison's cremains, which I always like to invite, if you'd like to, you can come up here. It's actually your place. I know in my childhood it was like, you couldn't go on the altar. And if you just turn this a little bit, you can actually open up, there's 2 little holders in here. There's a little piece of Ruth's, I don't know, it's a pretty big bone. Hip, don't know. there's that, and then there's this beautiful Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin, Tara, she who hears the cries of the world, compassion. So, practice. Do you find it difficult to get to your meditation practice? Why? I know I have. I've been meditating for 52 years, and it's been only over time that my practice has become really regular and substantial. And the reason is not because of great virtue, but that I've realized that it's the only time of day that the dukkha really diminishes radically. And so it's not so much, now I need to meditate, or now I want to meditate because I want to be a meditator. It's like, God, where's the life jacket? It seems to me as though, I was going to say my denial, my ignorance, or the ignorance of this being in this lifetime is so profoundly thick that it avoids the reality of life with incredible vigor. Right? It really wants to stay stoned. It really wants to have a glass or 3 of wine every night. It really wants to work and get anxious and stay busy. It really wants to go to Costco and buy something. It really wants to plan and look forward to the next great vacation. It really wants to deny how difficult it is to have children, and to have the children have children. Because none of it turns out the way we fantasize. It really wants to deny the reality of Gaza, of the Congo, of climate change, of the horrors of American politics. I don't want to know about that stuff. And I feel teary now. I don't want to know about the anxiety that it creates. But if I don't, I'm running scared. And so I've discovered, or I've had so much incredible teaching and help. The only really sensible thing I can do is make enough time that I actually come into contact with the present moment. That I'm not in the middle of the rush to get the project done, or that the thinking actually stops. That being productive actually stops. And it takes a humongous amount of work for us to create that in our lives. Partly because as we go in that direction, we encounter all the trauma of our lifetime. We encounter the resentments. Here's a line from a resentment, a forgiveness meditation from my teacher, Matt Flickstein. Do you have any resentments? Anything left over from the past? Even the smallest one of those will lock you out of freedom. Isn't that weird? Why? Well, I have a self, myself, and this person did that to me, and so I'm angry at them. Boom. No way to relax into openness. Hence forgiveness. That'd be one of the practices we'll do in the joy course. So, I've been inspired in this direction with the Dalai Lama's had a pretty seriously difficult life. So is Desmond Tutu. I didn't know much about him, learning more. Whoa, amazing fellow. They have every reason in the world to feel despondent and unhappy and despairing and, right? Just like every single one of us in this room does. All of our lives have really been very difficult, much more difficult than we acknowledge. I remember my old mentor, Don Nickerson, died about a year ago now, less than a year. And I remember in a bioenergetics workshop I did with him when I was 35 or something. He came around the group and shared something with each person, and he said something like, Robert, you've done very well given the horrors of your childhood. I was like, wait a minute. I had the best mother in the world, and it was a middle-class family and so on. But then as I've realized, opened, it was really hard. And I bet yours was too. And if we're going to go down and in our opening so that we can be free without repressing, then we have to metabolize whatever it is that comes up in our practice. So, that fellow says, the third one, develop a mind which isn't lost in wandering all the time. Develop a mind with sufficient wakefulness that it starts unpacking the wandering quite automatically. It notices wandering. Here's this irritation. Here's this. In fact, I was doing some work of that ilk right here in that first meditation. How to say this? The reactive side of me is really sick of this rinky-dink little project system. The survival of PIMC depends upon there's twice as many people on here as there are here, and I'm going to make my pitch. Please donate to PIMC. Please use the Donna Bowl or go online and support the center. We need it. It's needed, and this place is needed desperately. If we're not linked well to our customers at a distance, we're going to lose them. And so there's all this rationale, right? But the experience was this anger comes up, this irritation, and then it's hard to get back into the heart. Now, that's not anybody else. That's my issue to work with, of course. But so that capacity to notice when the mind is wandering and do something about it. And develop a mind which sometimes doesn't wander much at all. And that's where the deep practice comes in, probably retreat practice and therapy, because we have that which is coming from inside and which is jazzing up the system all the time. We really have to learn how to let it calm down. So that's restraining unwholesome emotional states, bringing into being wholesome mental states. You're here. To be here or here on Zoom shows such an immense commitment to your practice. There's a lot of other things you can do on a Sunday morning. In fact, there's things on your to-do list that you should be doing. But here you are, actually together, supporting one another, and doing this practice of coming home to breathing, noticing when the mind wanders, restraining unwholesome mental, emotional states, bringing into being wholesome states. You're doing the path of joy right here. And the fourth piece, that's the core, I think, of the Joy Book is happiness doesn't come from achievements and power. It comes from loving each other. I had a blessed day yesterday. I don't know that I've ever had a better day in my life. I had meetings with 3 different people where it was clear that we loved each other. Not romantic, but the mutuality of caring and of respecting and of listening and presence. I don't know of anything that is more nourishing to me. It's what I've always wanted. Right? To feel safe enough to be with someone who feels safe enough, to have our boundaries clear enough that we actually can look into each other's eyes and maybe even say, I love you. It's an anxiety douser. Right? It's just one little thread of this in the PIMC structure is we're having this, this morning you did such a nice job on the welcoming, the words of welcoming. When we meet one another and actually meet with our hearts open, we are welcoming. Way beneath words, but oh, here you are. Another image is popping into my mind. I have the incredible privilege of having my granddaughter, Juniper, each Wednesday. I've missed 3 now because of the weather and teaching and stuff, but from 8:15 in the morning, 7:15 in the morning till 2:30 each week on a Wednesday. And whenever she's willing, I'm willing to just sit there and be in love with her and to gaze into her eyes when she's interested. And sometimes she's interested, right? Just doom. Who was it? Winnicott, early psychiatric child study person. Talks about, there's the gaze, the mother traditionally, but the gaze of the infant and the caregiver is really important. And also when the infant needs something, the parent needs to respond, and then that's the bonding cycle. And responding and then comfort, responding, comfort. I used to love watching my infants nursing, and because they do this thing, right? they're crying and unhappy, and you don't know what the hell's wrong with them, and they get put on the breast or the bottle, but the breast is much more impressive, really. They do that, and they're really upset, and they drink real hard for a little while, and then they go, right. I think I'll sleep for half an hour or an hour. See? They need that. We need that. They need that. So, that's what we're doing in meditation. When the mind is, there's one more piece of that. The caregiver of an infant is teaching the infant all the time. And the infant has a need. And if the caregiver is attuned, then there's what they're calling co-regulation. The parent learns how to go calm. To go calm in the face of a screaming, angry baby. I know my chops are not what they were once, but they're getting better. Because I think, oh God, I don't know how to do it anymore. But of course, sometimes she's just going to scream, and she is so rageful. And sometimes she's sad and hurt. But the caregiver helps. The baby's freaked out, and the caregiver swoops in one way or another and tries to figure out, how can I calm this little creature? Right? What does she think? What do they need? And how can I give it? And so rather than freaking out, they run into this soft barrier that says, wait, I think you can be more comfortable like this. And this is where babies learn what's called basic trust, which we get or we don't, or we get some part of it. So here we are with Kuan Yin, with the Buddha, a lineage through Ruth. We know how to self-regulate. We know how to calm ourselves. We know how to restrain the mind from unwholesome activities. We have the tools. And we have a community that we have enough, we have more and more capacity of loving one another and supporting one another and being there for one another when the shit really hits the fan, so that we can help each other to regulate and to develop the capacity to be in the middle of very difficult circumstances and not lose it, or not lose it for long, right? So I want to come back to the Dalai Lama's statement, that first thing that I read. If you recognize a circumstance is terrible, then fix it. If you can't fix it, don't dwell in it. What do you think of that? Samsara's broken. There's no fixing it. It's unfixable. Because everything's always changing. Totally changing. I was talking with a wise friend last night, someone who has been curious deeply about the climate change issue for a long time. Not as long as me. I did a master's in environmental studies that I completed in 1974. I actually finished my application from India and came back to York University in Toronto in 71. Because I traveled around the world quite a bit, 5 years. And what I saw everywhere was environmental collapse, 71. So I was talking with her last night, and maybe it doesn't even make sense in this context, but she said, "What do you think the world's going to look like in 2 years?" And somehow I stopped for a moment. It's like, maybe really different. Like really different. What shall I do in the meantime? What Joanna Macy told me sitting here, she was sitting here, I was on the floor, very famous teacher of mine. Many of you know her. She said, what if it is the end for us humans, Robert? Aren't you beautifully placed here at PIMC to help people love each other no matter what's happening? No matter whether it's growing old, facing environmental crisis, facing the various crazinesses that we are. We have a skill in insight meditation to really learn to modulate our emotions and to open up into the ultimate, utter interconnectedness between us. And what else would we be alive for? So there, I think I'd give myself a B plus in that. It was like, that's close to what I wanted to say. Maybe an A minus. Oh, we could go for an A minus. An A minus? All right, thank you. From KB, that's very generous. And of course, it doesn't matter what the grade was, because it was what it was, and it's over. Never to be here again. It's done. That flower bloomed. So, anybody from either world want to say something? Yeah, come on up here, please. If you want. You don't have to come up here. And if you should I let her sit down?
Or stand behind you.
Stand behind me.
Is that on?
I just turned it on, I think.
On? Okay.
On. Come behind me.
Stand over his right shoulder.
Okay.
The other right shoulder.
The other.
There you go.
Are we making you more anxious?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, good.
I'm Margie. I often see little things. I saw one this morning doing various things online about, like, here's a little trick to do this. Here's this little coffee thing that I drink, and I lost 11 pounds a week. I even got one in a political email. Here's a trick we can do to end the Electoral College. A trick. Well, none of them are tricks. So anyway, the question is, how can we use the Dharma to work our way out of the desire to look for the trick, the shortcut? How's that? Did I say it to where you understood?
Yeah, I get
Okay.
it. You want to stay here or you want to go back?
Oh, I'll stay here.
Okay. Can I hold your hand?
Sure. I'll just get down on my...
I just feel so much more secure holding someone's hand. Just, it's the way it is.
Yes, good.
There is no trick.
Right.
Samsara is broken, and there's no fixing it. And how many times have you been disappointed in your life? Twice, 3 times at least. it's hopeless. Things are not going to turn out well. There'll be lovely times, but they exist in time and they disappear like that. And this center exists in time. It won't exist for long. If that really big quake comes, this is gone. If the really big quake comes, get out of here. This is an unreinforced masonry building like 100,000 others in Portland. I am of the nature to age. I've not gone beyond aging. I am of the nature to sicken. I've not gone beyond sickness. Sickness isn't an accident. We're made to be sick. In the end, we get sick and we die. I am of the nature to die. I've not gone beyond dying. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. That includes my children and my grandchildren. I tried to mention such a thought to my son, who's a dad, and he said, "Don't talk like that, Dad." He doesn't want to, I don't think at his age I wanted to talk about that. He's got these two little precious, remarkable children. So, how do we, and this is part of what Betsy and I really go into, how do we allow ourselves to realize how difficult life is? And allow ourselves to be alive and joyful and caring and connected. And I think it's through going deeply, deeply into the nature of reality and seeing what's true. And then, well, since it's true, why not love each other? Why not have a nice time, a good time? Well, what about, this is happening on the other side of the world. Well, it is, but it's not happening here, and I have no agency over it there, so why don't we enjoy each other right here? In a certain way, it's really simple. And as one of my, I know how to turn on my iPad and to be in the very middle of the world's catastrophes in 10 seconds. Just turn on Al Jazeera. And I'm not designed, this organism, this mind, this heart, is not designed to be in the middle of a catastrophe every day. In my psychotherapy years, I worked a lot with trauma. Oh, I feel teary. And I think it's true. I think it's true that I still carry secondary traumatization from some of the people that I was with through their, and I work hard I work hard to do my own work, but it's like those people that do paramedic work and medicine in so many ways, that people who are on the front lines, it's so profoundly difficult for us, which is, of course, why we have to practice so deeply, and also why we have to find friends to hold hands with, so that we can bear it together and be joyful, be content, I don't like the word joy because it's kind of got a mirthful feel to it. Be like joy to the world, that kind of thing. But to be in contact and content, I like that a lot. In contact with life, honestly in contact with life. How's that?
Yeah.
Follow-up question?
Oh, when you said joy, I was thinking about, what's the name of those characters that go happy, happy, joy, joy? Do you remember them? Okay, yeah, so that's a problem with sometimes the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know what you mean with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard to find a word for the word you want, because even the word happy.
That's a bad word. It really is a crappy word.
But anybody have a really great thesaurus mind?
I love equanimity, but it's not very popular. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
KB, were you putting up your hand and then pulled it back down? Are you bringing in the dark side again?
I've got 2 problems with this.
All right, come on up. If you want, I can just throw you the mic. I love when you get feisty like this.
Oh, gosh, you're driving me crazy. 2 problems. Am I on? Am I on?
Yeah.
One, you say, okay, you try something or you try to fix something and it doesn't work out, so you give it up. No, you keep trying because that's the only way you're going to get to the point where you go over and over and over until you get a breakthrough. Number 1.
Okay. She's intense, isn't she? Could be very scary up here with her.
Now I've lost my second one.
That was my idea. I thought I could distract you.
You did. You distracted me. Also, okay, what about the joy of satisfaction when you accomplish something? I am sorry, but people are not stable. And you may have a relationship with somebody that's going to go all over the place, okay? And it's never going to be, satisfaction when you accomplish something. That is a good feeling. It's the only time I've ever been calm.
That's not true.
Well,
I've seen you calm on retreat, just to sit hanging out, but
yeah, but you know what I mean. But I mean, in a way, I'm accomplishing something, right? But I mean, that kind of satisfaction, you can say, you can hang your hat on that. Somebody, a relationship. I mean, come on.
yeah, I know I'm married. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Oh, now I can sit down. Okay, I'm off. It's 5 minutes. There's not enough time, but I just had to spit it out.
You've accomplished incredible things. You have. In your activist work, you have. And aside from your professional work, which is amazing, but she and her husband created a company that sent actors into schools and libraries all over the country, doing really fine theater stuff. Traveling Lantern. Look it up. It's cool. Okay. I have had the experience of completion of something that I'm proud of. And then moments later, it's the same old longing. Because the Dalai Lama put it so beautifully, it's achievements don't do it. They're like a momentary, it's like a completion, a sense of satisfaction, and then it's gone the next moment. Whereas to live in a bigger frame, realizing, well, there are going to be moments of satisfaction, there's also going to be dismal moments of failure. And they come and they go, but that's not the foundation of my being, because that's not who I am. Because who I am is the field that holds the whole thing. Which is the love, where the love comes in. Love is a personification of that. I mean, what if, big picture, all right, I'm going to promise this and I'm going to do it today. On robertbeatty.com, there's a blog. I'm learning how to use it skillfully, thanks to Derek Whitliff. And today, I'm going to put a guided meditation on my podcast and put a link to it in the blog. It's a meditation that I commonly do at the beginning of retreats, and I think of it as the story of life. And I won't say more than that about it. However, you're pretty well versed, very well versed in climate change issues. And you see the cliff coming, and it freaks you out personally. And you put that personal freak out to really good use, I mean, even going to Washington. And so you are committed, and since I've known you, your heart has opened like a peony, and you're much more loving in your activism. You do much less harm in your activism because you realize that when there's hatred, it's not what you want. So you come to your activism with love. Not perfectly, I know, but you get such fervor. You temper it with love.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
Because, and this is the piece that's so, can I have your hand? This is the piece that's so hard for us as humans, as limited humans. It's all okay. It's all okay. We're all going to die, no matter what, one way or another. It probably won't be pretty. The climate is in collapse. Flooding, etc. It's big stuff is coming. There's wars all over the place. They're not slowing down. Our children are sick or addicted or whatever. And how can that possibly be okay? And that's what it says. Practice. I know that it's okay. I don't always believe it. Sometimes I get shrunken down in my little separate self and I get very panicky. But I have increasing confidence that this thing that one could call the dream of our lives is quite safe, totally safe. Nothing bad can happen because there's no one here. It's a weird thing to say, but because this experience of my separateness, 15 billion years of universe, and my little, so far 76 years, what if I could wake up and remember, oh, wow, I'm in a lifetime. I'm in a lifetime, and it's all falling apart. Because it always does. Maybe I could relax. Maybe I could be with my friend KB and really feel her hand. Because I don't have to be worrying in the background, oh God, something bad's going to happen. Of course, something terrible is going to happen. Yeah. Sort of. You want to say something?
No, you opened it this much, I'll have to keep looking. Thank you.
Thank you. The piece that comes through for me, the piece that's been so helpful to me, I'm so glad I decided to read and teach this book on joy. It's the thing about devoting our lives to connection and to compassion for other people. I mean, the only thing that's wrong with that causes all these wars is that people forget to see each other as people. They get so lost in their mind and their ideology and their grudges and their resentments and their national grudges and that they forget to just pause and say, wait a minute, That's a grandfather holding a child. I can't hurt them because they're me. But we're so we human beings are so prone to insanity for various reasons. But so the solution is actually very simple, which is to wake up. And it's a one person at a time thing. And no opinion, no political movement, that's never going to do it. It's only one person at a time waking up and then reaching out to the one beside them and saying, I'm awake, are you awake? Let's be loving with each other. And let's be loving with our children and our friends. And what about those people, my enemies? Well, let's really look at that. Right? How can I hold on to enemy views when I can start seeing them as thoughts? It's part of the whole problem with national identities and things like that, is that we get into this group craziness about things. And then we act very, very badly. On the other hand, there's so much incredible kindness happening in the world all the time. Unbelievably. Okay, well, there. We did it. I love you, KP.
I love you too. It's exploding my brain. Again.
You've been such an important teacher for me. The way you hold on to your activism and learn to do it with more and more kindness, it's very bracing. So, dear friends on Zoom, oops, hang on, I'm trapped in my chair. Let me see where you are. Hello there. Huh. Well, I have really, I've really enjoyed being up here today, and I like being here in contact with you. Perhaps we can come by and we'll have a cup of tea or something. I will be absent next week. I'm not sure. Do you know who's teaching, Kendall?
Trina, I believe.
Trina, one of the esteemed next generation teachers. The week after that, I will be sharing this spot with Aaron Schneider. Aaron Schneider, yeah. Who's a member of our teacher training group, who is a person who she worked for more than 15 years in the ER as a doctor. And she's now, she had a cataclysmic dying in her family, of all her family, and it was just an amazing, concentrated death. And now she's working in hospice. And what a blessing she is for that. But she's going to come and we're going to have a conversation about, we're not exactly sure, but it's about how acknowledging death and the end-of-life work that she does is really a spiritual practice. And I think you'll be very interested to hear our conversation about that. Yeah.
You might like to mention the February 3rd, our one Saturday a month, Doug Pullen Day Long.
February 3rd, Doug Pullen. Put it on your calendar. And all this is on the website. Take a few moments to peruse. And I guess I should do this, just even though I've run over so far. This thing here, which was my monk's bowl in Burma. Think about how PIMC changes your life. Really think about it. Take it as a meditation. And then in here, or the bowl, the box back there, or online, better online, make a monthly contribution, because it contributes even then when you forget. But it's I don't know how to say it. It's love. It's love, and it creates the invitation, and the doors there are open for the next person who comes in on the brink of suicide or whatever they walk in the door with. Because people come in here with all kinds of baggage. So let us go out with a song. Bhava. Bhava tu sabe mangalam. May all beings receive all blessings. And let's let our hands go and put our hands over our heart. We'll do a mixed Sufi Buddhist thing here. And imagine filling your heart, filling your hands with the love of you that's in your heart, and slowly bringing it out and offering it to each other and all beings. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, dear friends. Please take a moment to thank your neighbor on each side for being here. Goodbye, friends on Zoom.